Snakes on a Plane. How inaccurate or accurate is that movie in your opinion?
Complete dog shit.
Oh, I didn't see you there. My name's Crucifix with Satanic Tico, and you're watching Scope Exposure.
Well, I think without further ado, we can get into it. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. This is a Western Canada, Eastern Canada crossover meeting in the middle. I'm excited to be chatting with a good homie, Tommy of Rust, and a number of other bands, as far as as far as I'm aware. But yeah, I'm excited to have you on.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah. We I think we had originally done this back in season 1, and then just the timing of things, we wanted to re-record an episode. And I think it's always funny when, at least as a podcaster or like a host of a podcast, when things in the moment might feel like, oh, like I have to rejuggle things, but now like there's a number of things that I know that we're gonna hit on that just weren't even in the cards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, for the few folks at home who don't know who you are or the bands you're a part of, just give me a proper introduction of how you're known.
Cool. Well, I sing in a hardcore band called Rust. I play guitar and sing in a band called World's Grasp. I play guitar in a band called Reality Denied, all from Southern Ontario.
Yeah. Tommy has been very busy on the music front. I'll plug it really early. Tommy was actually the person that wrote the intro for season 2, because we changed that up when we got into episode 101 and beyond. And I just came to you with the ideas of like, I wanted to have this kind of hits so I can animate this, but you took it to a whole nother level. So
thank you, man.
Yeah, have to plug Tommy. If you look, all of he's in the description of every podcast going forward, because that intro is mad sick, and I want to send more people your way. But before we get into some more music talk, we gotta talk bevs and check some bevs. So as tradition, the guest goes first. Tell me what you got in the chamber.
Buddy, we got a peach party going on here.
Very sick.
Good old peace tea, a classic. Can't go wrong.
I've seen that at the grocery store so many times, and I'm a big peach like bev person, but I've never tried that yet. So
it's good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, I think tea overall like sometimes gets goes over my head or is right under my nose, and maybe I need to tap into that a little bit more. As far as me, sorry, I told Tommy before we started recording, I like ate a bowl of cereal in like 30 seconds, so I'm like burping up milk, and ironically I'm going to be drinking more milk now. As far as the time of recording this, we just announced that we're sponsored by Say When, which is a chai company out of Vancouver. So in tradition, I'm going to be doing a dirty chai. So we got their 1-to-1 mix, got this, and I was gonna do the full pour, but I was like trying to rush, so there we go.
Nice.
And today feels like the appropriate day for that, just because it's like almost 20 degrees Celsius, so like this is like,
oh snap,
we're getting into summer.
Man, we had snow this morning.
Dude, Calgary has had like random little bursts of that. Like it'll snow and then it'll be like plus 13 the next day or something. So yeah, it's a wild one. At least you guys don't have like downfall of snow though. That's the
exactly.
Yeah. Well, cheers to you. The virtual Zoom cheers. Everyone who's listening, hold up your bevs.
There it is.
Unless you're driving, be safe. There's always the dead air when that's happening.
Yeah.
You should get on some of this chai stuff. I don't know if you're into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Highly recommend that.
Hell yeah, dude. Do you guys have a promo code or anything for it?
Yes, thanks for setting that up. Yeah, www.justsayone.com, promo code SCOPED for 10% off your first order. If you're choosing between the three options, I would go for the dirty chai just because that's like the most coffee related one. But I think a close second, if you're trying to stay caffeine free or whatever, is the golden chai, because apparently that's supposed to be a lot more like recovery. So maybe you rock that when you're doing the vocals and you need something just to
Yeah.
help out.
Awesome, dude.
So Tommy, you're an avid listener of the podcast, so you kind of know how we get into the groove of things. Any first time guests, I always like to just get context about how they got into heavy music. So
Yeah.
take us back in time. Tell us some of the formative records and moments for you of kind of what put you on the path to being a riff warrior and all that. And we'll start there.
All right, man. Well, like the first heavy band I can think of that I got into first was Metallica. Just like the textbook classic metal band. Enter Sandman was like the first song. And then it was just like downloading a bunch of random singles from LimeWire. You know how it goes. Then from there, I kind of just like, I didn't necessarily get bored of it, but I was looking for something that had like a little bit more of an edge to it. So then I got into bands that had like harsher vocals, like Children of Bodom,
right,
Bullet for My Valentine, Slipknot, all those kinds of bands. And that would have been like grade 7 or 8 when I got into the heavier kind of stuff.
Right.
And
yeah. And then as far as like playing in bands, like what, because I always find like there's a moment when you first hear like heavy music and then you have that realization of like, oh, I think I could actually do that. Because there does feel like a degree of separation at the beginning, because you're like Slipknot is this crazy band. They're all like wearing these get-ups and masks. Like, there's no way that I could do something as sick as that. But
yeah. Well, like I started playing drums when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
And that was around the same time when I started to, like try and find my own path in music, if you will, aside from like what my parents would play around the house and things like that.
Sure.
So I kept doing, kept trying to learn these songs on drums. And that was like my main kind of driving force into getting to other music. I was always listening to the drums first. So obviously like a band like Slipknot with a drummer like Joey instantly hooked me. And I was just like so hell-bent on trying to learn those songs and cover them and like upload it and see what other people would think of that. And by doing those covers, eventually I did join my first band by someone that went to the high school I went to that was older than me. Excuse me. He was into heavy music and he needed a drummer. No one in the area was really into heavy music. So the dude hit me up, came over and jammed. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this now.
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't know if this just came to me, but, and this may be a stretch, but I feel like dad rock was just something that was so common, especially on the radio. Like you would hear Bon Jovi or AC/DC. So I think the very simplistic, like the AC/DC beat, like poof, ka, poof, ka, like that was so just like bands like Slipknot or any band that had blast beats or really fast playing was like the total opposite of that. So I think that was like almost like one of those things where you hear it for the first time and you're like, I have no understanding of how someone is playing drums this way, when maybe traditionally all they've heard is the so no, I do think that is a very interesting thing. And I think heavy music in general, it triggers a very flight or fight kind of instinct in our brain, where it's like, either I don't understand this and I'm going to turn it off and never listen to it again, or I need to just like go down the rabbit hole and start to learn more about it.
Yeah, dude, straight up. I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah. Did you go down the route of just like looking up like drum covers when you were kind of getting into it, or were you just playing by ear?
Mostly just playing by ear.
Right.
I had a PSP at the time.
Sick.
Dude, those things were so sick, but way ahead of their time. But
yeah, underrated console for sure.
Yeah, and the thing that was sick was that it had like the memory, like SD card slot, so
Yep.
you could have a decent bit of memory on your little portable device, which at the time was sick. So I kind of just like loaded up my PSP with music, and I took it with me like everywhere I would go.
Okay.
And I would just be like listening to these songs and trying to just like picture what the drummer was playing as I was listening to it.
Got you.
And with like a good stereo mix, if it's from like the drummer perspective, you can really like hear even like which parts of the kit separately are being hit at a certain time and things like that. So
yeah,
I kind of just like would just binge listen and just try and shut out the other instruments and just hear the drums.
Yeah. Like it's just crazy because I have mad respect for all the PS2 and the PlayStation like cult fans of the world.
Yeah.
I went a little bit of the different route because I grew up with Nintendo and Microsoft, like Xbox primarily.
Yep.
So I never, even to this day, I've never owned, and this will be jarring to some people listening. I've never owned a PlayStation of any kind, whether it's a PS3 or anything like that. But I have nothing but respect. You know, a lot of people got trapped in like the console war kind of shit, like back in the day, and I was just like, no, like there's clearly sick games and some of those things that are happening. But I don't think I even owned anything that had that like SD card storage scenario, because like I have my GameCube sitting here, and you would have like the fat like memory cards or whatever. But like just having like SD cards or memory cards, like I'm just looking at my desk here, and I have like so many for work and for scoped, and just like it's a mess down here. But you know, just that access to be like, yeah, I'm gonna load this up with music, or and just have that as an option for a PSP versus like I think with the Xbox you could load songs onto it, but I can't even remember the overall process of like getting a song from your computer onto the Xbox.
Yeah.
It wasn't as simple as just doing an SD card to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still own a PSP?
I wish I did. That one, the thing is, like, I had the first model, and that was the one where you had to pull out the game tray to put the disc in, because they had like those little discs.
Oh, you had to physically pull it out.
Yeah,
it didn't,
dude.
like, pop out or anything.
And dude, I popped that sucker out and just wouldn't go back in, and it's like, well, okay, that's the end of that.
Yeah, that's the way. I'm trying to remember. Like the rabbit hole of like consoles dying or certain things failing. Like, you know, I'll be the first to say I had an Xbox 360 that got the red ring of death.
Yeah,
you know, that was almost, the red ring was almost like the coronavirus of the 360 generation. Making
Red
Tommy
Ring
spit
19.
Up. Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit.
That was crushing though. You're just like in the middle of the game, and then it goes dark, and you're like, you see it, and you're like, no.
Yeah. It's like PC blue screen.
Oh right, yeah, that's the original Red Ring Ultimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get the blue screen of Doom.
Yep.
No, that's too funny. Yeah, I've luckily, I don't think my original Xbox had anything funky. I think my second 360 was fine, and then I had an Xbox One that was fine. I have a GameCube now, but the one I had before, just like the disc tray just stopped spinning. So like ironically, I bought a GameCube off of this dude, and then I asked him if he also said he could like fix it, and then he was like, oh, like if I can't figure it out, I'll just charge you like a $20 or something. And then he ended up just buying it off of me so he could like fix it himself, because I already had a new one.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, shout out to all the GameCube players out there. So
That's what's up.
so Tommy, to transition back to the music chat. So
Yeah.
the main project that you're involved in right now is Rust, and band out of Southern Ontario as a whole, and that band is kind of interesting because that came onto my radar, I think, at the origin time because, for anyone that's aware of the band, you're not the original vocalist.
Nope.
So I think when the band was starting, I knew of, it's Ryan, right? Ryan?
Yep.
Yeah. So Ryan, I knew him through a series of other bands. I think the main one that I think we originally got connected, this is way, way many moons ago, but was Behold the City. And then he
Yep.
started that band. I was like, oh, okay. So this is like more hardcore related, less melody and some of those things. And then shortly after that, he left and I saw you join up. And then that's how kind of we got connected and, have, been doing things together, obviously. But, tell me about, give the origin story of like Rust, I guess, from an outsider before you joined the band, and then kind of when conversations of you joining came into play.
Okay. Well, at the time I was playing shows with World's Grasp, my like crossover project.
Yeah.
And we played a couple shows with Rust. I've known Rick for a while when he was doing photography under Capture the Core.
Yeah.
So like I was pretty well acquainted with most of the band. And like their drummer Doug and Ryan, the old vocalist, they played in Discover Sun, which is a band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a band that my other old band Soul Sucker played with a couple times back in the day.
Right.
So we were already like pretty well acquainted. And then I ended up parting ways with the groups I was working with at the time. And with Ryan, he was he's very involved with his church, and that's like a very, very important thing for him. And I have nothing but respect for that. And he just didn't really have much time to contribute to Rust anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of the timing just kind of worked out so that when Ryan was on his way out, I was available.
Right.
Yeah. And then Rob, him and I were talking about working on just like a completely different project together. And then eventually he was like, hey man, can I give you a call? So he called me. He's like, so do you want to do vocals in Rust? It's like, okay, sure, man, let's do it.
I just love when hardcore people are just like, will either just speak things into existence or just like are so direct to the point.
Yeah. And hey, I don't mind that. I ain't got no time for games.
Yeah. So here's the, like, I'm just remembering when River and John, very recent episode of the podcast, when they got asked to play Wild Rose up here, but not Ballista, but River said that she sent to the group chat like, so we're playing Canada, right? Like, it's just like, this is happening. Like, what? Like, let's say yes now and then figure out the details later. So
yeah,
love that.
Sometimes it has to go like that, man.
Yeah,
just gotta say yes to as much as you can and just keep going.
Yeah. So it sounded like the stars just aligned to work out for that really well.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I feel like to my knowledge, there's only one, I guess, like an EP with Ryan. Like that was kind of the debut, and then everything since then has been essentially your, voice and not like the band voice, but like your vocals on it. So, you guys have been, really busy on like putting out a lot of different music, which I think is really, really cool to see. I think there's been a 3-song EP, and then you guys did a 4-way split with, homies from here, Plead, and then Depleted and Gall's out of BC. Let's hit on that really. Can we pause? Because my dog just barking in the background. This is a part of the show.
the best part of the show.
Yeah, it's like, I know you're gonna bring some animals, so I'll just bring my dog as well.
All right, let's go.
So, anyways, let's just hit on that 4-way split, because I heard,
Mhm.
through the grapevine, aka Tyler from Plead, had mentioned it, and I thought that was a very, most bands, at least in the last couple months, of 2021, have done lots of like, 2 bands doing a split. So why did you guys want to go the route of doing 4 bands?
Well, I guess the main point was to give each other as many audiences as we can in one go. Just because like we got Plead and Gall in Western Canada, and then Depleted and Rust on Depleted is from Buffalo, New York, but close enough to where Rust is as well.
Yeah.
Just so we can kind of have a bit of a crossover between each other's audiences and hopefully bring attention to each other. So we figured that, having more bands on the split would just not only be so much more fun, but it'll bring more attention that all the bands deserve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like splits are a very cool thing in hardcore, and my band Endgame is working on a split right now, and approaching that in the sense of like not making it just the very typical like 2 bands, 2 songs, because that is very like I'm used to seeing that. But I think a number of different splits that have stood out to me or stood out to just like the general just get a little bit more attention, I think, are bands that either do a split with more than 2 bands, maybe there's more songs, maybe there's a cover on either side, or try to play around with that, versus like, I understand the premise of doing a split, but I think you should always, at least for me, and this is what I try to do, is like try to think about always throwing something just a little bit new, just to like, just so it's
keep
not
it fresh.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the as joining up with a new band and finding your sound, I felt like the first EP that you guys did with you on vocals was like, okay, yeah, there's some great hits on here, and then, but I do feel like the 2 songs off of that 4-way split were definitely like, okay, like this is some of your guys' best material for sure.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Of course. You guys did, and this was where we'll start to tease some other things, but you guys did a music video for Nihilist that you guys dropped really recently. And I know some of the behind the scenes, but tell the listeners, what kind of went down on that front.
Oh man. So that was a night. So we were, as you know, supposed to do a scope session.
Yes.
And we had everything set up. We rented a bunch of gear. We rented the Kill Room in Hamilton to shoot it. We got a whole crew of people to come out and do it as like the best we could. And when we go to start, like actually doing the set itself and doing like a little sound check kind of deal, we figured out that the mixing board that we rented could only put out like a single stereo out instead of every single channel.
For sure. Yeah.
Which I was just
huge
like,
issue.
What?
Right.
What? And then I'm pretty sure it was Rick. It's like, well, I don't know, worst comes to worst, we'll just do a music video. And I'm like, yo, okay, let's do it.
Right.
So we got a click track, because Nick from Schoolhouse, who is the person that engineered, recorded, mixed, and mastered our portion of the split.
Yeah.
He was there doing sound for us. So he just like set up a click track to play through the PA along with it. And we just did that in, I want to say 3 takes.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like no rehearsal, no planning or anything. Yeah. And the whole crew just killed it.
So like how quick was because I find like that is not a common Sorry, I'm just burping so much today.
Hey,
I
no
feel like
worries.
that like adaptability is like a huge skill set that I think every hardcore band finds themselves in those circumstances where it's like, all right, here's the situation. It's not what we planned, but how can we still salvage something of that? So,
Yeah.
how quick was that for you guys where it's like, okay, this session isn't going to happen the way we want it to? What can we do while everyone is here? And, we've, loaded gear from the jam space and now it's here. Like, talk to me about that, just the mind working overtime ultimately to make that
Yeah.
into something.
Well, it was some pretty quick decision making for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was kind of just like a bit of like a punch to the gut, like you were saying, how like we got all this stuff put together and now it's clearly not going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with like hardcore is such a DIY oriented genre that I just like you were saying as well, like a lot of bands may not even really plan on it, but they do have to be quick thinkers and adapt really quick.
Yeah.
So it was kind of just like, okay, like, yeah, I'm pretty anxious right now and I'm freaked out, but like, I got to do something about it.
Right.
Like we're gonna do something. So, and the Rust dudes are a literal family, and anytime I'm in a situation with them, I know that we're gonna be just like totally all right, and we'll make the best of it. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah. No, and I think that's, really, really important because that I think is put into practice so much more at live shows or like,
oh yeah,
when you're going to the show, if you're on tour, because like something happens on the road, on the way to the show, at the show, during the set. And sometimes you have to be quick thinkers. Like sometimes you have to make that choice to put down the guitar to like, pick up the amp that fell down or like,
yeah.
Or even if you're at the show and you're watching your friend's band and something is happening, like how many times, like I almost miss seeing this at shows, like seeing the like a cymbal stand fall over,
Yes.
and then someone's like going up and putting it, or not even the whole stand, but just the cymbal is like wonky. So
yeah, and it's slowly just
yeah, no, I think that's something that I think is like really admirable about hardcore is that like that seeing that need and just immediately acting on it for the betterment of the show. Because you wouldn't go to like a country bar and like see a drummer whose cymbal is like that, like, and no one in their cowboy boots is running up to fix that, because it's like, get off the stage or whatever. But I think hardcore is so like, I don't know, just again seeing the need and just like helping it because everyone and not feeling like, oh, someone's on stage during our set, like that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So I'll also plug like, despite the scope session via Rust not happening, we are planning on doing something in the very near future. Do we have I know this is all like just like us chatting on the podcast about something that's happening down the future, but have we set a date for that yet?
Nothing set in stone, but I think I projected something like late May, early June.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of see if they're the listeners who are fans of your music can be like, oh, okay, I can kind of watch out for that. Also want to plug Alice and Omar and
yes,
just for me not physically being there to film it, having them just help out on the production side and sending things to me for that. Yeah, super talented. I'm very you brought up how Rick used to take photos, like it was kind of funny because when I was first getting into hardcore, like Capture the Core was like my shit. Like I would always try to look for all the photos that he had taken because he's a talented dude, and like I think we've talked a little bit of why he doesn't really do that as much anymore, but yeah, he's he set a high standard in my opinion for like Canadian
absolutely,
photographers.
man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's always funny too when like a band has someone who has that skill set. I think of Cole on our team who does photos, but like when he was in, now he's in Snake Pit, so like I'm like, well,
Oh,
who's
cool.
gonna take the photos while you guys are playing? I know one of the guitar players, girlfriend Carissa, she or they are a photographer, but
Mhm.
sometimes Cole has just given me his camera. He's like, if you want to take photos, I'm like, well, I don't get to do that. So,
Yeah.
anyways, chatted about a bunch of different things. As far as, things that are coming down the pipe via Rust, I know
Mhm.
the timing of recording this podcast, there's some things going on. So do you want to pull back the curtain on, what you guys are in the midst of?
Yeah. So as of, well, today we're filming this April 1st. Tomorrow we head into the studio to record 2 new songs.
Sick.
Uh, and we are hoping, well, we are going to do a music video for at least one of them.
Okay.
And because, that last scope session didn't go the way as planned, we're super happy with the music video, but we still got to do that session.
Of course.
So
yeah.
we're hoping to work with the same talented crew that we worked with before. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Omar, Alice Hirsch, and Sean from In Your Face Films.
Yes, Sean as well. I knew I was forgetting one person, but Sean was helping out on that regard as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we're hoping to like, if with everything going on in the world right now with like COVID and things like that, it's obviously difficult to plan things ahead. But if all goes well, that is what's going to happen. We're ready to go for it. It's just a matter of what the government decides it's going to let us do.
Right. Yeah. Ontario is kind of, just hearing through my parents that live out in Mississauga, just it's a little bit different than like even smaller provinces like, Manitoba or things like that. Like Calgary is like still pretty bad, but I think Ontario is in a lane of its own.
Yeah, we're in a lockdown as of Saturday.
Oh,
Like this Saturday coming up. Yeah. And
geez.
like originally we had the studio booked with Nick at Schoolhouse for the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But since the lockdown comes into effect on Saturday, we have to get everything done tomorrow.
Damn. Okay. Yeah.
But it's okay. We're gonna crush it, and it's all good. I got faith in the team.
Yeah. But again, that goes back to that like adaptability of like, okay, this is outside of our control, but we can let's still like bunker down and get shit done.
Exactly. Like there's no sense in just, like desk flipping and like walking away. It's
desk
like,
flipping.
Well,
Yeah.
just,
No, right.
Fuck this.
Yeah, I think a lot of
that's not gonna get you anywhere.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just get into the woe is me card, but like everyone's got bad hands dealt to them multiple times a week, multiple times a day at times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer of, you don't get to choose the cards you're dealt, you just get to choose how you get to play with them ultimately.
Absolutely. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some people are born with, diseases at birth, and it's like, okay, how do I still live a life that has meaning, despite, not having, the how do I want to say this? Despite having, a normal, set played to you,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Oh, dude, straight up. And that's the thing, like like I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been obviously a very heavy thing to deal with. But it's, like with the whole cards thing, like you have to, like it's up to you how you play them. So if you're thrown this, on the surface, what seems like a pretty shoddy hand, you can figure out ways how to play it properly and still be just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe the goal, and I've had those reflections for me, like I've mentioned here on the podcast before, but it was a number of years ago that I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So that's like,
oh man,
like I was just happy because at the time I was like, I have no idea why my stomach hurts so bad, and I'm just happy to have an answer. And know the steps I need to take, medically just to feel normal. But,
Yeah.
I think sometimes whether you have a mental illness, a physical illness, anything that is not a negative, but just something that is an obstacle for you, it
Mhm.
doesn't always need to be like, I need to conquer the day and be the most badass person ever. Like sometimes you just need a day to be like, okay, like this got the better of me, and I'm gonna just reset and play those cards again tomorrow, and hopefully it's better.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that anyone should get too down on themselves about just like trying to win every single day. Sometimes you just have some days are just a wash. Like
Yep.
that's a given. But yeah, let's I also wanted to talk to you, Tommy. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, you helped
Mm.
kind of write the intro and outro for this podcast for season 2, which if you haven't and if you skipped over it, like shame on you. Go back, listen to it. But yeah, most of the people I would think are listening to it and are familiar. But yeah, just like talk to me about like, obviously being very involved in music and different bands. Like what put you on to like even just offering services to Ghostwrite and just help people out with different projects like that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, even if I wasn't playing in bands, I'd still be constantly writing music.
Right.
And during the pandemic, I've really like, kind of just like strapped down and really focused on progressing with like audio production.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I noticed as well is there are so many people on my friends list on social media that are vocalists that don't necessarily have a band. And everyone's stuck at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these people are practicing vocals and like, they're covering other bands' songs, but then their video gets muted because of copyright and things like that.
Sure.
So I have a buddy of mine that he was in that exact situation. And he just asked me like, hey, like, can you write me a song that I can scream over? And I was like, it was kind of just like a light bulb above the head kind of moment. Like,
Sure.
Hey, if I want to, keep the creativity flowing and maybe make a little bit of extra money while I can, I'm going to do this. So that was kind of like a pilot project per se.
Yeah.
And it went over really well. And I've been growing my client base with that. And because that's been happening, I've partnered with my good friend, Matt Andrews, who I've been friends with for 7 or 8 years now. And he's in school at OER, which is one of like the top recording technology schools in North America. So I've been partnering with him. So I've been writing the songs. So like the client comes to me with like a reference. And then I'll write the song for them. Once they're happy with it, I send it off to Matt for mix and master.
Yeah.
And then they're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt was the one that did the mixing and mastering, and you recommended like, hey, let's do this versus I think in the past, like you've done some mixing and mastering yourself, but like he definitely brought it to like a whole new level, which I think is very, very cool.
Yeah, he's a very, very talented guy.
Yeah, shout out to Matt. On just like the topic of ghostwriting, like, obviously, I'm sure there's a couple people listening that maybe have a certain take or I guess like perspective on that. Like I don't like, because I think a lot of people are just like, no, like you need to write your music, but like talk to me about just like who should be reaching out to someone for help on that level, like because I do think that is empowering to like if you live in like Nunavut or like a random ass part of the world that maybe doesn't have a scene or things like that, you can still make a killer music project through someone like Tommy. So talk to me about where your mind goes there.
So I guess I could say sorry, can you repeat that?
No, that's fine. I'm just I know that there's going to be people in the comments or just listening right now who are like, ghostwriting is like, oh, like like
Okay.
you should write your own music, but like
Yeah.
talk to me about like where your mind goes with like helping another musician out when it comes to, you know, realizing a dream. Because if you weren't doing
Yeah.
it, we wouldn't have a sick ass like podcast intro. So like talk to me about those
Respect.
things. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, sometimes like with bands, at least through my experience, the music is like, obviously that's like your focal point. But when you're running your band in a way that you're trying to make it somewhat of a business, which is what it is, right?
Mhm.
Your music is really not the entire thing.
Yeah.
You know, so like a lot of it is with like your branding, who, how you market yourself, et cetera, et cetera. So I really don't think that having like paying for a service to help form your product is something that happens every day in pretty much every industry.
Sure.
And with music, of course, it can be a little touchy because it's something that so many people hold so close to their hearts. But like at like a face value, like industry level, and you know, it's really difficult to make money off of music in general.
Yeah.
So for a person like myself, that's one of the only ways I can really see myself making an income off of heavy music.
Sure.
And you know, like there's ghostwriting is not really an uncommon thing. And even with some bands, like, or most bands, I would say, usually have like one person in the band that writes all their stuff, and everyone's just there to play it, you know? So
that's far too common, honestly.
Yeah. It happens all the time, man. So I don't see somebody hiring a ghostwriter to be anything different than that, really. And it's their vision and it's their idea, and I'm just giving them a hand in bringing that to life. And that's my favorite part about it. It's awesome. I love when people are happy with it. And yeah, it's a really good feeling to be able to provide something creatively to somebody that they can, you know, cherish and use.
Yeah. And I think like I think all of that holds so much more weight because you're in a band already. Like if you were just like some guy who was only ghostwriting but not like writing their own music and doing that kind of things, like it becomes this weird thing of like, are you just helping us out for money? But like you said, like it's hard enough in the world that we live in to make money, especially like in music, especially when it's heavy music. And I think like, you know, for me, you know, inquiring with you about like, hey, like this is the vibe that I want, and I knew that you could do it immediately. These are like, this is kind of the parts that I want to do. I'm just kind of giving you a roadmap, but you're ultimately like putting down the concrete to it. So I think that's very cool to have that kind of collaborative effort, and it's cool. It gets my mind going of like, you know, maybe there's certain music projects that I want to do that that might not want to be a live setting. Like I might just want to do like me and my friend Brent from back in Winnipeg. He wrote this like demo of all these like really like Hatebreed-esque hardcore songs, and we're gonna call it Mendoza, which is like a Simpsons reference, and every song was gonna have all these Simpsons references. But like a live adaptation of that band, I know would never happen, but like that is something that we've talked about for years and years and years. So I think it is, you know, I think it's very interesting that there are people in hardcore, metalcore, whatever you want to call it, that are offering just like, hey, I can help you. You know, if you just want to, you know, if you're playing in a punk rock band, but like really just want to do something really like grind and just be able to get some of those ideas out, but you don't have time to like write, or maybe you're not, that's not your strong suit, like reaching out to people like Tommy to help realize that vision, just to have something creative in the mix of that, I think is very, very important. So,
hell yeah, man.
What's kind of been one of the wildest projects that's hit your plate, where maybe it like really pushed you as a songwriter? Um,
Hmm. I've been working on this like old school deathcore kind of EP for my buddy Justin.
okay.
And that is something that I hadn't really touched on too much in the past few years, was like anything really heavier than hardcore when it came to writing. And also just that specific of like not only just like a subgenre deathcore, but like the old school like OG kind of stuff. So I really just went back and listened to a bunch of like old deathcore, and it was just a lot of trial and error and just figuring out like what shapes sound old school and things like that. So that was definitely a bit of a challenge, but it's been really, really fun so far. Yeah.
Is there I'm curious, has there ever been a time where you're contracted out to write a certain EP or LP or single or whatever, and you're writing something, and you're like, man, this is actually like, I kind of want to save this for one of my bands? Like, have you ever run into that like situation, or you're like, I did write this for this band, so like
Oh dude, that's been that's definitely been something I've been dealing with lately. So my buddy Matt and I have we started a really heavy project. And it's kind of along the lines of a couple of my clients' stuff right now. So I've just been trying to make like really definitive decisions in the style of the stuff. So like most of my clients just want like breakdowns and big heavy riffs. So I try to like set aside different slots of time to work on personal projects and to work on stuff for clients. And like if I do come up with something that makes me go like, shit, I wish like I could keep that for me, I know I'm doing something right, and I'm hoping that the client can be super stoked about that. So and that's the thing too, like ideas will always come and ideas will go, and as I keep writing, I'm just hoping that I can keep progressing and just keep writing more and more killer material.
I think a lot of good just music comes off of like writing a lot of bad music. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to write like certain songs that you think in the moment are like, yeah, this is it. And then you listen back to it like the next day and you're like, no. And then so that's been daunting for me and the musical projects that I'm in. Like we're putting out this split. We might do a single later, but eventually we're going to get to doing an LP. And I'm like, that is a mountain to climb, to write at least 10 songs that are like no sleepers, like there's no snoozers, no skips. But like, for you just writing as much music as you are, that process is like the sword is just being refined and chiseled and just becoming sharper and sharper every time. So I think that's very cool.
Oh yeah, thank you, man.
Of course. So we're gonna hard transition here. So
okay.
This is one of the original reasons why I wanted to have Tommy on the podcast, because outside of your passion for music, you're into critters and like little reptiles and animals. So just talk to me about like how that, for any of the visual listeners, we're going to get visual
my favorite.
Anyone who's watching the podcast versus listening, we're going to get some people on screen here in the next level.
Oh, yes.
So before we do that, Tommy, can you just tell me about like, what essentially put you on that path and how that passion kind of started?
Mm-hmm. Well, it all started with dinosaurs.
Of course.
When I was
the
little.
OGs.
Man, oh yes, dude. I was like just like pronouncing like ridiculous dinosaur names before I could like speak full sentences. I was just like so obsessed with them.
Mhm.
And then that kind of just like transitioned into like a love for like the living dinosaurs,
Right.
everything that's around us. And like my family went camping for more than half the summer every year, so I was always just out looking for like snakes and turtles and frogs and things like that. And funny enough as well, like being like super into Pokemon, like most kids my age at the time, really just made me like appreciate the little creatures more. And I wanted to, find out more about them. Like, what exact type is this? Like, how long do they live?
What's their moveset?
Yeah, dude, straight up. Dude, some reptiles have some gnarly movesets.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
dude, there's like horned lizards that live out where you are. They squirt blood from their eyes as a defense mechanism.
Whoa.
Yeah, dog, they're gnarly.
They're called corn lizards?
Horned
lizards.
Yeah.
Interesting. So don't fuck with any of those if you run into it.
Yeah. It'll probably be gone before you can even get up to it. But yeah.
Fair. I was gonna ask because you're like big. You said dinosaurs is kind of where it started. I think if you don't think dinosaurs are some of the sickest creatures in the world, you're messed up. Like, I think everyone loves dinosaurs. Like,
dude,
they're
sick.
the coolest things in the world. But
straight up.
That's a separate thing. But I was gonna ask, have you ever been to Drumheller?
No.
Okay, so Drumheller is like maybe a 2-hour drive from Calgary, maybe 3, but it's like, and I'm gonna butcher this if someone's like an actual Drumheller nerd and knows all the facts about that town, but essentially it's like quote unquote a dinosaur town. So I think there was a lot of like dinosaur fossils that were found in that town, making it like this thing. But like you'll literally drive around town and there'll be just like dinosaur statues next to like the gas station. There's a giant T-Rex at like the town square kind of area. So
amazing.
I'm like, the minute that shows come back and you guys are playing Calgary, like we'll just make sure that there's an extra day that we can all go there and you can just freak the I know there's a grocery store that has like a T-Rex breaking out of like the brick wall on the side. Yeah, it's insane.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
What's your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite dinosaur, well, like T-Rex was the first, like my first love, just like with most people. But I think Utahraptor takes the cake for me.
Raptor?
Yeah, it's what everyone thinks Velociraptor is.
Oh, okay.
So like the raptors in Jurassic Park.
Oh, is it spelled Utah Raptor?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's crazy. I'm just looking it up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does look like the Jurassic Park raptors.
Yeah. So like Velociraptors are actually much smaller. And the Utahraptors are the big guys.
I see. So is Jurassic Park just like out to lunch and they just base their raptor off of that? I guess breaking down the walls.
Yeah, no, to a certain point. But the other thing as well is like no one has ever seen a living dinosaur, so you can't really rag on them too much. Right?
Well, actually, it's like, no one's seen a dinosaur. So
yeah,
shut the fuck up. No, that's too funny. Yeah, I was always a fan of I think it's the Stegosaurus. It's the like I think because I think the first Jurassic Park I saw was 3 in theaters, and I remember this vividly because we went to the movies, and I think I had it as like it was like for my birthday or something, and not everyone coming to my birthday knew that we were seeing that movie, so I had to like call this shows my age potentially, but they were calling their parents on like the payphone at the movie theater, just be like, hey, we're seeing this movie, it's rated this. But I just liked that dinosaur just because it had kind of like the fin on the backside of it. Is that right? The stego? No, wait.
Stegosaurus has like multiple plates down its back and the spiky tail.
Okay,
And they're quadrupeds.
who the fuck am
Are
I
you thinking of
thinking?
Spinosaurus?
Spinosaurus. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just again off of the spine being exposed in that regard.
Yeah, dude, they're cool as hell.
Yeah. So again, we're getting a little off topic off the dinosaur chats, but you know, just you started to, go down that rabbit hole and, you got a couple critters yourself.
Yeah.
Has that been, and I've noticed as well off of, your social media that you try to educate people on just like, taking care, like what goes into that. Cause I think a lot of people will like jump to this idea of like, it would be so cool to get a snake, and even like dialing it a little bit back, like a lot of people like jump into like call it just general pet ownership without maybe
Mhm.
thinking like, is my lifestyle or am I willing to change my lifestyle for the betterment of this animal? So how, like, why for you was it important just to like educate people on that, and what it's like to own either a modern dinosaur or whatever?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, they're incredible, rewarding pets to own, and I want to share that with people. And like the fear of snakes is like the number one phobia on the planet. So I if someone is looking to like get a pet ball python or whatever, like I'm all for it. Like, hell yeah, more and more people need to be owning snakes. I'm totally cool with that. I want to see that. But what I don't want to see is people buying them for just like the novelty of it.
Right.
And that goes with any pet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important for just as a general statement for people to share knowledge about things they're passionate about.
Sure.
So, like I absolutely love these animals and I have knowledge to share regarding them. And that's something that I definitely love putting some effort into. And, hopefully maybe it could inspire someone to get one of these pets, and then they can educate people,
Right.
about how these animals shouldn't be feared or, hated or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the folks at home who don't know like the inventory, just tell me how many pets that you have, and their names and their species as well.
All right. Well, I have 2 pet lizards. I have a crested gecko named Boo. He's a Halloween morph, so
Okay.
it just fits.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I have a bearded dragon named Abby.
Okay.
And for snakes, I have 5 pet snakes. I have a Western hognose named Spoink, a Honduran milk snake named Nemo, a champagne ball python named Gucci, a pinstripe ball python named Shigo, and I have a reticulated python named Ivy.
Wow. So yeah, there's a solid crew of reptiles.
Yeah.
At your house. I've seen, through stories and some of your posts on just like the setup that you have to have in your place. Can you educate the listeners on some of those things? Like not the square footage, but like how much space that does take up versus like, oh, I got this little cage and I have 5 snakes. Like that's not the setup.
Yeah. I guess an easy way to put it would be that every species has their own specific needs. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking for like a pet snake, obviously if you live in like a bachelor apartment, you're not going to be able to own like a 20-foot Burmese python.
Sure.
So you're going to want to look for smaller animals such as like my hognose snake Spoink. Mm-hmm. The hognose don't get any larger than 2 feet in length.
Okay.
Yeah. And as long as your enclosure, well, once again, like every species has their own specific needs. So that's very important. You can't just like blanketly research snakes. Like that's not going to
Snake
work.
House enter. No.
Yeah,
Not.
exactly. That's not going to work.
Right.
So like really, I don't know, make sure you have your focus on a particular species to start off with. And that in itself will answer a lot of questions that you'll have, such as enclosure size and things like that.
Yeah.
And as long as the enclosure is big enough that they can fully stretch out, and snakes generally they feel more secure in a smaller area. That doesn't mean put them in a tiny box, but they don't necessarily need a gigantic enclosure depending on the species.
Sure. They're not like a dog and they want to run around. They just want to slither.
They just want to chill and eat and just do their thing, man. So it's really important to figure out exactly what specific animal you're looking for, and everything else will just follow suit with that in regards to enclosure size, temperature, humidity, lighting, and things like that.
Do you find that like people that are maybe owning a snake for a first time, or like any reptile, are more so just going off of like how it looks? Like, oh, this snake is so cool because it's like all these different colors of red and orange, versus like maybe their lifestyle or where they live, they're more suited for another snake that maybe is, like, because I think that's a great point, just bringing up just like doing your research versus like you see something on your Instagram or TikTok and then you're like, I need to own one of these, but like maybe it's not the right fit for you.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I really love about reptiles is that they like I have 2 ball pythons, but they look completely different because they have different color mutations. And a lot of those, like you can, it's pretty much like a ball python is a ball python. And then the specific color mutation is just kind of like a color variant, if you will, genetically,
Yeah. A 1 of 1. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then just like anything like that, the harder it is to find one and the fancier the genetics, the more expensive the animal is going to be. So like you could get a ball python, a regular, like wild type, like their normal colors that you would find in Africa, for like $50.
Oh, okay.
Or you can get a ball python that's a blue-eyed leucistic morph, which is an all-white snake with blue eyes. Still a ball python, the exact same as the other snake that's $50, except it's just a different appearance. Just like with different, like dogs and cats, right? They can have different fur colors and different like which are all just genetic mutations from a scientific perspective. So that's another thing. When you pick your species, start looking at different morphs that are available. And there's a lot out there.
What, like, is there certain resources that you can shout out, like aside from just like Google or whatever, like that are like specific on like this is a good place just to like learn about like snakes specifically or just reptiles in general?
There is a YouTuber that's from the area that I live in Niagara.
Oh, okay.
And his YouTube channel is called Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles.
Okay.
Some
alliteration going on.
Yeah. Dude's name is Adam Wickens. Super nice guy.
His name is Wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has a very informative YouTube channel, and he bases a lot of his videos off of like the comments. So like questions that people are asking, if it gets asked often enough, he'll end up making a video about it, he's a very reliable resource. Honestly, go to any local reptile store. Obviously PetSmart is great for supplies and things like that, but I would not recommend getting advice from like a big box pet store.
Sure.
Nothing on anyone that works there. I go to PetSmart to buy supplies all the time. People will be happy with you showing the interest. Like shout out to Niagara Exotics from where I live.
Sick.
The fantastic resource. And, if you're talking to them, they're the ones that are going to be bringing the animals into the store.
Right.
So that could be an opportunity for you to get your dream pet through that person, you know? So definitely, just like with anything, support local. And there are many online resources, like, once again, Wicked Reptiles. Tyler Nolan Tattoo is another really good YouTuber that has a ridiculous amount of animals, including venomous snakes as well, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. Is there certain reptiles that you're like, I will never own one of these just because like it is too like ingrained in you that it is too dangerous? Or are you like, dude, I'm gonna have a zoo one day?
Yeah, like there's definitely a bunch of animals that I would not keep based on just their size and how expensive it'll be.
Sure.
And even just some things like larger monitor lizards are really expensive to feed. So that's like there's so many factors. But I guess like I wouldn't want to keep anything that's venomous as much as I would love to. It's just, I would feel, I wouldn't feel great about it. Cause I would have to hide it and that would suck, you know,
right.
Things like that. And also, you know, keeping your neighbors, in thought as well. Like, say like one of my ball python escapes, whatever.
Right.
I'll find her and she's fine. She's cool. She was just curled up under a pillow. But if I had like, I don't know, a 14-foot king cobra and that thing got out, not only would people be in danger, like I would be fined quite a lot.
Right.
But that's the thing too, though, man. Like the reptiles, like they don't want to hurt you. They're not aggressive inherently. Mm-hmm. Just like any creature, if they see something that's bigger than them, they're going to be scared.
Right.
You show them respect, they'll give you respect. But yeah, there are definitely reptiles I would not keep. Just for, you know, practical reasons, and that
for sure,
you know, I want to have kids within the next few years. So having I wouldn't want anything to happen to either the child or the pet itself. You
want to make sure that the bases are covered, so you know if push came to shove, like people aren't going to be in danger. So I think
exactly. And like having any mishap just looks bad on the hobby in general.
Sure.
You know, right. So like when you're taking in an animal like that, you're kind of have the rest of the community on your shoulders as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point because, you know, me and my wife talk about this all the time of like, we wish, like, I think I can collectively say we both wish, and I think that there's going to be people listening that agree with me on this, is that I wish like adopting a dog or adopting a cat was like kind of like there was not like a background check, but like unfortunately there's a lot of really bad dog owners out there. And there's owners that for sure are getting rescues or strays that like are harder to take care of because there's more trauma involved as well. But again, like if you're like, I know my lifestyle, you know, from you know, since we got Marty has changed drastically, but again, for the betterment of him, to give him the exercise, the attention, and, you know, the stimulation he needs, versus being like, I'll just like put him in a crate for 12 hours and whatever. Like, nah, that can't be your outlook immediately.
Yeah. Not at all.
You know, no. I promised the listeners and the watchers that we would at least pull one of these magnificent animals out. So, if do you want to go grab one and we can do a little demo?
Yeah. So we only have time for the one?
I think. Well,
you think?
Let's do one and see if we can do two, or is it easier to grab two at once?
It'd be easier to grab one.
Okay.
I was just thinking either like I start off with a small one and then end with the biggest one, but
sure.
If I'm going to do one, I'm grabbing the biggest one.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay. Oh, this is going to be a headache with the headphones, but.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, Ivy. So Ivy is the snake that appears on the Rust cover for Time's Up.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah. She was probably maybe 3 feet long at the time of that photo.
Right.
Dude, I get you're trying to hang on, bro, but like, come on, you gotta show off
All
for
the
the camera,
audio
right?
listeners need to look at the time mark of the episode and go to the video version. Tommy comes in with a snake wrapped around his head like it's a scarf.
Yeah, Ivy is a reticulated python.
Okay.
But she's a dwarf reticulated python, so she doesn't get as big as the mainland ones.
I see.
Yeah, the mainland reticulated pythons are the longest snake species on the planet. Some get up to 30 foot.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, but she probably won't get any bigger than like 10. She's just pushing 6 right now.
Oh, okay. So, kind of like more than halfway at what would be her max. She's licking
Blah,
the
blah, blah, blah,
camera. That's crazy. So, you were bringing up as far as enclosures and, every species is different. Like, what is the, like, is there like activity time for snakes and some of those things? Like, talk to me about that.
Well, they don't necessarily like look forward to or necessarily like get enjoyment out of hanging out with people and things like that.
Right.
But they can learn not to fear people, just like this girl right here.
Right.
And it is important to make sure that they can have some kind of enrichment so that they're like, you can't really, well, I mean, you could, and the animal would be healthy, but it'd probably just be bored if you just like put it in an enclosure with like a hide and a water dish.
Right.
Like, sure, that's sustainable, but you're going to want to put, like different perches, like things they can climb on, fake plants that they can hide behind, and, change it around every once in a while, just to, keep it interesting for them. 'Cause like, that's their home.
Right.
So you got to make sure that they have, enough stimulant available to them that they can, if they're feeling like going out for a quick little noodle slither around their enclosure, they got stuff to look at and climb on,
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has there like, off of like, I think about this with, my dog is that like animals will show a certain kind of personality sometimes. There's definitely things within a breed, like whether a dog is really, really smart or dumb, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like how, has that kind of been the same for you? Like, seeing different personality traits with some of your reptiles?
Oh, dude, absolutely. Even like within the same species. But like, there is like a general like baseline that's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Like most ball pythons are just really, really chill.
Yeah.
Like super chill. They just freaking sit there. You could watch like a 3-hour movie and they're still in the same spot, but then, there's snakes like Ivy, who is very, very inquisitive and is always, looking around and exploring stuff, while my ball pythons would just chill. This girl is just like loving life, and she's I can like see her eyes like fixating on stuff, and she's like taking in her surroundings. So it's always a fun time hanging out with her.
What's the what's maybe the weirdest thing about being like a snake owner, like that you didn't expect, whether it's like something kind of just strange or just like gross, like as far as like, upkeep of that kind of animal?
The only thing I can really think of off the top of my head that is pretty gross is like ball pythons they're notorious for being really picky eaters.
Sure.
So there have been a couple occasions over the years where I go to feed them and they strike at the food, they coil it, and I'm like, okay, sick, awesome. And I usually feed them at night because that's when they're most active. So then I'll just go to bed, and then I wake up the next morning and I smell this nasty, like rotting smell.
Oh no.
And they just didn't eat their food and it just sat in their tank all night. Like, bro. But
Then
that's
the
the
entire house
benefit.
just smells like that. Oh geez. Yeah.
Not fun.
Yeah.
But that's the benefit of having multiple snakes, though, is that like if one like isn't eating, you can just give the food to the next one.
Yeah.
So
sure.
like even though like my 3 pythons are feeding on rats, I'll only thaw out 2 because she eats every time. She's friggin' great. But my ball pythons are super picky. So I go to feed one. If she takes it, then okay, I'll thaw out that extra 3rd rat. But if not, sweet. I just save food and she's just being picky.
Right. No, I would have never thought about just like them not, because like I've seen those videos of you preparing that and they do like the koi and all that cool shit.
Yeah.
But I never would have thought just like, oh, I got you this like thawed rat and then you didn't eat it and now it's just stinking up my apartment. So that's crazy.
Dude, it sucks. Like if they don't like show any interest at all, I sadly just have to put it into like a plastic bag and toss it in the freezer because I can't just throw it in the garbage can.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But and that just, it is sad. But like I do my part as well by like Katie has pet rats and we buy pet rats from like the feeder supply.
Right.
From our local place. So like, yes, I'm like if I could feed Ivy a salad, I totally would, but she's not eating that, right?
Yeah. Right.
And it's fun feeding them. But so, at least like I can rescue some rats while I'm at it.
Right. Well, I think like it's not like I think it is important, like you said, to do your part, but like you don't see the Tiger King getting flack of like you're not feeding your tigers a vegan diet or anything like that. Like we as humans, like that is a what's the term? That is a what the fuck is the term? That's a blessing to be able to like choose a plethora of different foods from around the world and different diets. But for a lot of these animals, it's like I eat this and that's kind of it. So
yeah, no, exactly, man.
Yeah, no, that is very cool. Just like, you talked about, like, is shedding skin kind of a like not as scary thing as it's made to seem in some of the world? Is that just like, oh, here's just some dead skin and I have to throw it in the garbage? Or
yeah. Well, yeah, that's like, come on, dude, get out of there. Yeah, like it differs from each species. Like for instance, like Ivy has, you probably can't see it too well on, but like her scales are really fine, like they're really small.
Okay.
So her sheds are more difficult to come out in one piece because the scales are so small. And it's just like a normal part of their growing process. As they grow, they outgrow their skin and they just take that shit off. It's like getting a little haircut, like it doesn't hurt them. There is like kind of a cool process that they go through. So when they're a couple days away from shedding, their eyes will go like a milky blue color.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is and all their scales will go like really dull. And that's just a secretion between their new skin and their old skin. That kind of just helps them get that dead skin off. Where are you going? And a lot of snakes have like specific humidity needs. And when they're going through their shed cycle, you're going to want the humidity to be higher so that they can have their shed come off in one piece. Because if you get like pieces of stuck shed on them, that can harbor bacteria and lead to health problems. That's the only like scary thing I could think of with them shedding. But the other cool thing though, is that like their eyeballs are part of their skin as well. So they actually shed everything.
They
so like
shed
they'll
their
have like
eyeballs.
these. Well, just like the outer layer of it. It's like a
Yeah.
fine little film.
That's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah, dude,
Wow.
it's super cool.
Yeah. Wow, I'm just learning so much about snakes right now, which is very cool. Tommy, before we start to wrap up the show, we talked about snakes a lot. Snakes on a Plane. How inaccurate or accurate is that movie, in your opinion?
Complete dog shit.
I haven't seen that in so many moons, but I think I just
Yeah.
watched that movie specifically to hear the quote, "I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane."
Yeah.
And I genuinely think after I heard that, I'm like, I can turn this movie off now.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, if there were snakes on a plane, they'd just be doing this.
Yeah. They would be jumping out of the things that drop in the overhead and biting into people's necks. What is the one reptile that you don't want to be stuck on a plane with? Maybe that's a better question.
Oh, man.
And maybe this is a movie that will come out in 5 years off of this podcast.
I'm trying to, oh my God. Does it have to be like just one or like a bunch of one type?
That's a good question. I feel like it needs to be a bunch of one type because that is more Hollywood versus like there's one little commodity. I don't know.
I would not want to be on a plane full of tokay geckos.
Oh, okay.
They are, yeah, like they're the biggest freaking assholes on the planet.
How do you spell tokay? Oh, Tokay? Oh, okay. Yeah, that thing does not look.
They're really pretty, but they're like stupid aggressive, and they can bite really hard.
Yeah, that there's a ton of photos of its mouth super open.
Yeah,
and I do not want that jumping up on my nose.
They bark too.
They bark?
Yeah, man. They make these weird ass barking noises. They're straight from hell. They're beautiful animals, don't get me wrong, but they're fucking evil.
I'm trying to see if I can listen to what that sounds like.
Like, oh.
Sorry.
No worries.
Oh, wait. Oh.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's like got a dry cough.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And that thing is so small. So imagine like 1,000 of those.
Yeah.
Just going through like the aisles.
Yeah. It'd be terrifying.
Yeah. Well,
fuck.
If anyone at Universal is taking notes, Tokay Geckos on a Plane coming to theaters 2025. Well, Tommy, this has been really fun. We should start to wrap up the show.
Yeah, for sure.
As you know, the last portion is a favorite mosh story that you would like to share.
Yes.
It sounds like you have that on deck. So so you can just get right to it.
All right, man. So this was with Soul Sucker like 4 years ago. We were playing in Syracuse, New York. The show was super shot. There was maybe like 5 people there. And this, but we're just still giving her because, that's what we're there to do.
Yeah.
And this dude, random homeless guy, just walks into the venue.
Okay.
And like, I noticed him thinking like, okay, weird, but whatever. Fucking enjoy the show, bud. And the dude just starts like getting all hyped up. And then he just starts yelling. And just like yelling like random bullshit at me as I'm singing. So then I was just like, fuck it, the show's shot, whatever. So I walked up to him and I just put the mic in his face. And he just started just screaming nonsensical bullshit. And then after that happened, our TM Jameson just started seeing how close he could get his foot to the guy's head with spin kicks without actually hitting him.
Oh, okay. So he's moshing for you guys because it's just a shot show, and he's like, I'm gonna see how close I can do.
He's just like throwing spin kicks over this homeless dude's head that just walked in, like missing him by maybe an inch.
Right.
And then I'm just like giving him the mic multiple times. It was a shit show, but got to make the best out of it.
Yeah. There's some shows that you're just like, fuck it, like Like, let's just make some memories out of that.
Yeah, dude, straight up.
The visual of you
I'll take that
sticking
to
the
grave.
mic in this dude's face and just feet just going over in a spin kick
Yeah.
motion it's too vivid.
Dude, it is so good.
Yeah, no, that's too funny. Yeah, I think that everybody has been at those shows where someone on the outside has come in and it's just either they are super intoxicated and something just goes to shit, or they're just maybe not all there, and it could just be one of those shows where it's like, what is going on? Oh, here's Marty making an appearance. Hi, buddy. Yeah,
hey, Marty.
This is the animal podcast. We got the dog. We got the snake. Oh my goodness.
Let's go.
Yes, I know. People aren't tuning in so they could just see you kiss my face. Maybe Amy, my
Yes,
friend
they
Amy,
are.
might be doing that. Well, Tom, this has been really, really fun. All of your links for the bands you're a part of and your personal and all that good shit will be in the description and all that. But if there's anything you want to end on, send the people off with, the floor is yours for whatever you want to plug.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. Check out Russ's newest music video for our song Nihilist. And if you're looking to work on some music, hit me up. I'll do the best I can to make your vision come true.
Yeah. I'm like I said, Tommy and I have been working on things together, in small little things, but I think we got a couple things that we're also going to be doing, later down the pipe. And, I have mad appreciation and respect for people who are just writing and just honing their craft more and more. So that Tommy is one of those people. So go follow him, go listen to Rust. And thanks for coming on the podcast, man. And bringing
Dude, thank you.
For bringing the snakes and all that.
Always.